Okay, so I am joined by Bryan Lacey, Octagon commentator, to talk about everything that the promotion is up to right now. And it feels fitting to start with kind of the UK expansion that is happening right now. Um, I know that you've only recently wrapped the Octagon Challenge series, which is something I'm very excited about because the kind of mini documentaries that Octagon put out on some of their fighters, I think, are so great. I wish that there was a lot more of that in MMA. Getting to know these guys' stories and stuff like that is such a treat before the actual fights. So I'm so excited for the show. From the outside looking in, the vibe that it obviously gives off as an MMA fan when you look at there's teams and there's team captains, you go, oh, the Ultimate Fighter. Like, is that fair to say? Is it a similar kind of format to that?
Of course, it's got fighters. It's got fighters in a house. They're fighting for a contract. It has twists, though, mate. This is the bit that makes it different, which I think is super unique as far as what we do and what we get the fighters to do. But it's the challenge part. It's called Octagon Challenge, and this season we came up with some phenomenal, epic challenges for these eight guys to go head to head, country to country against each other. And it was ridiculous. And it's for me, what's great about that is because what the challenges do, if you're in the gym, you get they're so comfy there. That's their
Mm.
world. They're rolling, they're training, they're doing what they do. That's their comfort zone. But when you give them something which they've got no idea what these challenges are. One of my favorite parts, and unfortunately I can't tell you what the challenges are here,
Yeah.
but it's watching them arrive. And then even the bit before, like the night before, trying to work out what it might be, or even when they're driving and they can see signs for something oh, it might be this or it might be that. And we had so many moments where we gave them the unexpected, and that brought them out of their comfort zone. So what you get from that is, their personality, how they deal with that adversity, how they come together as a team or don't come together as a team. That's what makes this. And I was there for the whole thing. And we've done, including this one, 7 seasons across the different territories we've been in: Czech Republic, Slovakia, Germany last year. And even Pavel and Andre, the two owners, the two guys who brought this thing to life, they said it's the craziest, the best, the most epic season yet. And that's exciting.
Yeah, I wasn't even aware that this has been like a pre-existing format that has gone on. I guess just because of the UK guys being involved, it's like it's more kind of prominent on my radar. Because the strange thing to me about this format is it's become such an important part of MMA, like as a whole, with the Ultimate Fighter, of course. If it hadn't have been for the Ultimate Fighter back in the day, who knows where MMA would be, right? But like no one seems to have been able to replicate it at all. Um, so like, how was that going into? I know that you said obviously that you've already done it before, with this one being maybe a little bit bigger and kind of like you said the craziest one yet. So like, how was that being there for the whole process and watching it all play out and going through these experiences with these guys that didn't know what to expect?
It was awesome. That was my first season doing it with them, so that was the
Right.
first one that I got to host. But I did get a little taste of it last year because when they were doing Germany, they had Stefan Putz, Christian Eckelin, and Martin and David Zawad as the coaches, which legends in German MMA. And over there, Pavel Neruda, we talked about it briefly because my background was comedy. That's what I did for like 17 years on the circuit. And we'd had a gin and tonic one evening, and he was saying to me, he said, "It'd be great if we could do something with the fighters with comedy." And I said, "What about making one of the challenges that?" So we did. Like a week before, he just said, "What are you doing next week?" He said, "Do you want to come to Germany, to Frankfurt?" I was like, "Yeah." And he said, "We're going to do the challenge for the coaches." And I couldn't believe it because it was literally a conversation we had months ago. And a week before, he says, "We're going to do it." We fly out. So that was my first taste. That was just one little moment in that series. But to be there for the entire series for this one, to see, the highs and the lows of the guys, to see the national pride and the rivalry that was coming through, and then also just to witness because they're all they compete over anything. If it was the
Yeah.
last chip or the remote control for the TV, that they're competitors. They will do all they can. So watching how hard they fought for every, not inch, but millimeter in these challenges, and the personalities we've got. Everyone knows who the fighters are already, but people like Dennis Frimpong and his mouth continuously going were just, it was unreal. It was, it's for me, it was a real pinch me moment, because I started watching MMA even before the Ultimate Fight, but when it came round, I'd come back from gigs and I'd turn it on at night and I'd watch it all by myself, watch the whole thing unfold, and then to suddenly be there, however many years later, making the show, and the production level is crazy. It's a full production for this one, so I'm excited for people to see it, and that will start. The way it's going to work is going to start in September and run all the way to the so that we will see the semi-final fights the week before Manchester Arena, November 4th.
Cool. I'm so excited for to watch it play out, and kind of, like you said, obviously it was completely new experiences for all those guys, but a new experience as well to kind of have a UK versus Ireland version of the Ultimate Fighter, which I feel like would have been
Yeah,
quite high on a.
England versus Ireland. This was the
Oh
best
yeah,
thing as well, because when they came to me and they said, "How are we going to do it?" I said, we're perfect for this, because if you
yeah,
put England against anyone, everyone hates England. The Irish hate England, Wales hate England, Scotland hate England. So whatever way you want to push it, as long as England are in there, and you put one of the neighbouring countries in, there will instantly be that competition and rivalry.
yeah. I mean, to refer back to the Ultimate Fighter for a second, one of my big criticisms with the show, maybe in recent years, that I think, I guess they've kind of addressed recently, has been the choice of coaches. Not that they wouldn't be great coaches, but sometimes you need personalities, right? It's a TV show at the end of the day. For for Octagon Challenge, I feel like the big draw of interest was like, okay, they're doing this thing, it's England versus Ireland. You're like, okay, that sounds good. But then to get those coaches, to get legends of UK MMA in there, and then of course, obviously, to have Shem in there as well, and a Conan in there as well, it's like now it's even more interest, because these are personalities that people know, or in the case of like Shem and Conan, it's like people that you kind of want to know more.
Yeah,
So that adds,
totally.
I assume with the show as well, that added so much, not just in terms of just having them there, but also for the fighters competing, like to have those guys by their sides through it all.
Yeah, 100%. And like you said, legends, Brad Pickett, who for all the way through from Cage Rage to the WEC into the UFC, flew the flag for England all the way around the world. And then the most Irish man you could ever meet in your life, Paddy, the hooligan Houlihan. To see how those guys, to watch them take the sessions, because obviously there's the episodes are going to be about an hour.
Mm.
But there's so much more where they trained, or they just hung out together, or they were just talking. And for me, sitting on the fringes of that and watching, how Paddy brought the team together, so like with a real gusto as far as morale and spirit. And then Brad, just the way that the fighters looked up to him, the way that they, even after sessions, like there'd be Bo Gavin he came to me, I've just rolled with Brad Pickett. I've just done this. And to see that influence on them was great. And then the real nice touch was two signed Octagon fighters, Akon Wanless and Shamrock, who are big personalities. They've got good stories behind them as well. And they are mid journey. They are, chasing that dream. And for them to be in there, and they recognized as well how big of an opportunity this was for the young guys that are coming through. They could see, because imagine, even like Brad was saying, imagine if I had that when I was younger. But then even to hear Shem and Akon say the same, it was, that dynamic wise, team wise, even the way it matched up fight wise, it couldn't have gone any better as far as the 8 fighters. And then we had the coaches, and we also had a bonus coach. Martin Stapleton came and joined us as well. He took Brad Pickett's session for one episode, and him as an inspirational like character leader, somebody who's done what he's done in his life. The dynamics were it's awesome, and I just cannot wait for people to see it.
Yeah, of course, the kind of big picture with all of this is building towards the Manchester show in November. Like, UK MMA is obviously in a great place. I mean, look at the Octagon Challenge where you've got these guys coming through at such early stages of their career, whereas in it feels like only a couple of years ago where you get guys in the UK that are 10-0, 11-0, and they can't get signed to a big promotion. Whereas now these guys are getting picked up so early and the development starts so much earlier. But like how difficult is that to because the thing that struck me about it is first of all the Manchester Arena is a is a big old kind of gauntlet to lay down of like we're going to do this, but also Octagon shows before you ever watch one, the first thing you hear is about how huge they are and the presentation and the production and all that. So to bring that over and kind of translate that, like I assume that that's a really difficult thing to just like arrive in the UK and be like, we're not gonna compromise, you know?
Well, that's what we do. That's our brand. It's not just about the fighters; it's about the fans as well. It's giving them an experience, and I think it's missing in the UK that uh, we only get a couple of really big shows, and even the UFC that's coming this month isn't sold out yet. There's big issues with people talking about the card or talking about the prices, but the Octagon shows are experiences. They really are. It's my favorite thing when new teams or coaches or even press turn up and they go, "I've seen it, but I didn't know this is what it felt like." And we want to bring that to the UK. We want to give that to the fans. We want to give fighters that experience of walking out in stadiums, not in,
Mm.
sports halls and whatever else. So it's a massive task. It is huge. It is phenomenal. It's ridiculous. It keeps me awake at night, but it's what we do. It is what we do. And we're going to try and get into this market and not just be here for one event. We're going to be here to stay. So this is the start. We've already got plans for 2024, which are super exciting. But we want to show people what we do, and even if it means challenging ourselves to try and fill that big barn that is Manchester, the AO Arena in Manchester, where that's what we're up for. That's what we do.
Yeah, you said then about the kind of overall experience, and I feel like I agree with you that maybe there is kind of a gap there. I feel like boxing has become so much more successful in the UK off of making it an event, like going to the boxing for a night out, you know, and maybe MMA is kind of missing that a little bit, and Octagon kind of brings that overall vibe to it. But like obviously the main factor is getting fighters that people want to see. Like how because it seems like promotions across the board are signing more UK guys from a really early level as well. Like I said, like before it seemed like you needed to be quite a few years into your career to even get signed to a big promotion, and now it seems to happen faster each month even. Like how difficult is that to try and find the guys that people care about? I guess the Octagon Challenge is a big part of that because suddenly you've spent 10 hours with these guys before you've even seen them fight, you know?
Yeah, that's 100% the aim of a show like that is to not just about the fights, it's about the people. And again, there are a lot of promotions now, and a lot of, especially in the UK, it's very different to Germany. Like Germany have only just got the PFL going back over there. UFC don't go there, Bellator don't go there. So when we went there, there's a lot of fighters for us to have that were ready to, fight on their home soil and show the crowds what they do. Fighters like Christian Youngworth, who are just absolutely monumental fighters. And Germany just doesn't have that scene. We're different. We've got UFC coming twice a year, Bellator X amount of times, PFL now putting the. So for us, yeah, of course, one of those things is finding talent, but it's not just, I think there's so many good fighters out there. There's so many good gyms that aren't tapped into. I think there can almost be some gyms or managers or, relationships that people lean on a lot. Whereas if you look, there's some phenomenal guys out there. We're so lucky to get Akon one list. His story is amazing. His personality is phenomenal. Shamrock, 8-1 and 1 now. Look at his backstory. Look at what he was doing, the waves he was making. Callum Mullen, he's fighting on this next card as well. He lost his first fight in Octagon, but he put on an amazing performance, and he is a great talent. He really is. So it's one of the fun bits for me. It's hard, of course it is. It's hard looking for the people that can help build your brand, the people who will be the heroes in the UK or represent this brand. But it's also the great bit because it's the best bit of the sport, getting to know the people. This is my favorite thing. I love great fights. I love technically great fighters, but tell me their story. Let me invest in them. Let me find out why they do this, what's led them down this path, and why they're so dedicated, where this tunnel vision comes from, the adversity they faced in their life, what has carved these humans. And for me, that is a never-ending pool, because we only usually see, especially if you go to the smaller shows, they only put up on YouTube the fight. You don't get to see, the walkout where their stories are told, or you don't get big promo videos. So for me, there's so much talent that we have, and so many stories to tell that we can tap into. So it's tough, but it's the most fun bit. Like lifting up a rock and finding this gold underneath is the best.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think a lot of people would agree that you struck a bit of gold with the two guys involved in the challenge series underneath the head coaches. I don't know how much you can talk about kind of further plans for the UK and things like that, because obviously, like I said, it's all kind of building up to the big picture Manchester show at the end of the year. But how I assume with
Don't
things
be
like
shy,
this,
mate. Don't be shy. Come on. Come on. Use the
I don't
needle.
know.
Let's go. Let's go.
I don't know how much will have already been set and things like that.
Okay.
So I don't know how much there even is to say. But going forward, what kind of are the plans for Octagon going forward? Because, like I said, we have the Manchester show, which feels like this big occasion. But is that kind of more of the plan of like these like one-off big events, or is it more like, building up a kind of a solid fan base with the UK fans where they know we'll get a couple of Octagon events this year, and you kind of build that kind of rapport and that kind of trust with the fans in that way?
It's how it's got to work, because if you just come and you're a one-hit wonder, then they don't want to come back. They don't, So for us, we are going to be, if 2024 is already set, and it's more than a couple of events. That's what I can tell you. We've also got, obviously, we've got the project over here with Jake and Paul, Jake Quickenden and Paul Smith, which is building up, and the footage we've got on that is crazy. And those two guys, what they are doing to get ready for this fight is, alongside everything else that they do, is mental. But they are that. So we've got that, but we've got something else coming for next year. And we're not just going to be a one city place. We are going to, go around. We want Octagon to be, and again, if you think about the UFC, it just goes to London. We've got a massive country. You look at the north-south divide, you look at the quality of gyms in the north, all the way across, right from Scotland down to Newcastle, across from Liverpool, Manchester, Hull, into the Midlands. We've got so much talent and so many fighting cities that we're not just going to be standing in one place and going, come to us. We are going to take Octagon to a lot of different exciting places. So that's what I can tell you. 2024 is set. The venues are booked, and a lot of other stuff is already bubbling underneath.
It's very exciting. I mean, like I said, considering what we said earlier about Octagon kind of being about not compromising on the kind of staples of the brand at this point, then I'm sure all of those shows are going to be exciting when they are finally announced. So I can't wait for that. I wouldn't be doing this justice if I didn't speak to you about the back-to-back events that are coming up at the end of this month. What are you most excited about on those shows, and like what should people keep an eye out for? Because I say this every single time Octagon comes up, but if I'm speaking to someone and they haven't watched one, the simple answer is just watch one.
Just watch one. And if you're gonna watch one, watch two in one weekend. Let's do that. And this one is special. We call it like the most beautiful event of the year because it is spectacular. Last year we had like a halftime show and so when they told me, they said there's going to be a band, quite well-known band in the Czech Republic, and they're going to play like songs and some Coldplay stuff in the middle of the fights and I was like, really? And I was expecting everybody to leave, everybody to disappear. But we're in this Coliseum, which is usually a tennis court. So when you say tennis court, it doesn't sound as good as Coliseum, but we're in this beautiful like Coliseum, this arena in the middle of Prague on this island, open air. And last year they did that with the fireworks. The band started and everybody stayed. It added to the atmosphere. And then the second half, the main card, was electric, absolutely phenomenal. And again, it kind of shows the difference. And I love showing people not just the difference as far as the experience of the events, but also look at the audience we have. And I mean it. When you're watching the fights, look around behind the cage, because we have a good mix of men, women, families, and it's the same when every time we go to the weigh-ins and the fighters from the UK or Ireland or from Germany come over for the first time. They look around and there's kids and there's wives and husbands. There's a great shot of a granddad with a granddaughter at the side of one of the stages watching just the weigh-ins. So the audience is kind of different. So that's another reason for people to watch. And for these two events in particular, we got some massive fights, huge fights. Saturday night, Lausanne Keita, who I think is, renowned across Europe, getting noticed across the world with his talent. He's the interim featherweight champ. He's the lightweight champ. He's trying to unify the featherweight belt against Mate Sanakidze, the Georgian fighter who is so unique, very tall and rangy for this weight class, supreme wrestling, really excellent fights, and could be the style that we need to see against Keita, because no one's been able to control him against the cage. No one's been able to get him down, and no one's beaten him yet. He is undefeated. So that is like the main event of Saturday. Carlos Vermola is back as well on the Saturday. On the Friday night, we've got Magard versus Lima. Which is, those two don't like each other. So it's not just a fight. They really don't like each other. So that for me, for the bantamweight strap, is a great fight for the Friday night. And then you've got the UK fighters, Callum Mullins versus Roman Paulus. He's on there. We're going to have Shem, and we should have Akon on these cards as well. Shamrock's got Jan Malak. Now that's a heartbreaker for me, because Jan Malak is somebody that I know very well. I've commentated with him, and Shem is somebody that I've grown to know and grown to love a lot just through the experiences we've had over the last sort of 6 months. So that will open the card on the Friday, I believe. And then we've also got Stuart Austin taking on Mikhail Andrzejczyk, which is a crazy heavyweight fight. If you don't know about Mikhail Andrzejczyk, huge high finish rate, very athletic for a heavyweight, very big. Like for Stuart Austin, he's a real heavyweight, but Austin has got the style, and I think he's remotivated by coming to Octagon. He won his first fight, won that in Bratislava. Dominant, really clever grappling, chained his wrestling together well to control his opponent. And he's got, a big task. And I think that will decide who will fight Hatif Moel potentially for that heavyweight strap. So lots of UK Scouse Irish type talent on the cards there as well.
Yeah, can't wait for those two. Like you said, the amount of UK guys on there that, of course, is going to gather interest. But the most exciting thing is you might know one of those names and tune in, and then you stick around and you get to watch either a Keita fight or something like that. And then
don't miss a Keita fight. Honestly,
you can't.
Do not miss it. It's like he is I think I've called a lot of fights all the way from Russia with Peter Yan, Magomed Sharipov, big names over there that have gone on to do big things elsewhere. But I think this is the most talented guy that I've naturally talented guy, because he's only been doing it 6 years.
His story is insane as well
in the sport. But Mate Sanakidze as well, coming from Georgia. I called his first pro fight. So I don't know if he even remembers this, but his first pro fight years ago, 2017. I called it, and I remember, and I called it with Frank Mir, and Frank said to me afterwards, he said, that kid's good, like legit good. We were in Turkey. That's right. We were in Turkey, sat on garden furniture. Can you imagine Frank Mir, 300 pounds of Frank Mir trying to be sustained by some cheap plastic furniture? And he was one of the first fights of the night. And he said, Mate Sanakidze, he said he's going to be good. And he is. He really is. So that fight is, that's worth it alone.
Yeah, I totally agree. Thank you so much, mate. It's been a pleasure. And
pleasure, my friend.
Can't wait to finally watch this Octagon Challenge Series. I'm sure you're looking forward to it, just so you can talk about it openly and actually get people's reactions at long last. So
that's the only thing that's the pain, because I know all the outcomes, I know all the and I've just got to shut my big mouth sometimes. But the challenge comes out September. That'll run us all the way into November 4th. You can get tickets for ManchesterTicketmaster.com. Got to say that. And then the Jake Quicken and Paul Smith, we have got we've got that launching this month. Hopefully, we should have an announcement as to where and when people can watch that. But again, if you want to watch two guys that they're so unique, they're fun personalities on the camera anyway, but trying to get to grips with this mad sport and to do it justice, which is what they want to do. What they have done and what they are doing alongside their mad lives it's great TV, and they are, in my eyes, they're goddamn heroes.
Yeah, totally agree. Thank you so much, mate.